Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In this video I will go through my pieces of the costume and I will retopologize these three pieces, so the main body, the boots and the part over the forearm. And the reason is because when I want to pose this character, I don't want to have to deal with such a high poly mesh, so I combine everything into a Dynamesh, and now I'm just exporting these high poly geometries to Maya, and I'm gonna do the retopology in there. So before I can pose this character, I want to have everything kind of low poly state, so I can easily do the posing and not have to worry about the heaviness of the mesh. So I exported this is the last one. Okay, so next let's move to Maya. So in Maya I have imported my three objects, and so I'm gonna hide these two, and I'm gonna select this one and I'm gonna make it live by clicking on this icon. So now the mesh is live, and that will allow me to use the quad draw tool. But first I'm gonna also activate the symmetry, because this object is symmetrical, so I can use symmetry. And as you can see, I can either way I can use world X or object X, it doesn't really matter. But as you can see, now I have symmetry. And now I speed up the video a little bit because this is gonna take a long time. And the same way I did all my other retopologies, I start with this one. So for this, the strategy as usual is to try to maintain the main flow of the underlying high poly mesh, and you can use the smooth brush, and the technique here is to basically try and keep as low poly as possible. The mesh has to be as low poly as possible. You do not want to be in a situation where you start adding a lot of detail, a lot of edge loops in this stage, because that's only gonna complicate things. So just keep a fairly low amount of polygons, and if you see that you're getting a high number, just try to reduce that number to a reasonable amount. So here I'm finishing the side of the costume, and I'm smoothing out a little bit, saving the scene, and now I move on the back. Again, I'm trying to keep the flow following on the underlying mesh. And in this part, actually, I'm realizing that I'm using way too many polygons. I have too many subdivision. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start on the other side, and then I'm gonna reduce based on what I have from the other side to continue the loop there. So I'm trying to reduce the polygons here, and I'm gonna do one cut in the middle there, so I can easily connect that part, so that looks much better. And now moving to the front, and it's pretty straightforward. And now the top part, again, try to keep the shape of my polygons to be aligned to the flow of the geometry that I want, placing the cuts where they're supposed to be. I don't have to be super precise, but always help if I can keep fairly similar flow compared to the high poly mesh that it's underneath. So this part is pretty straightforward. Just connect the remaining parts and smooth it out, just to have a little bit even mesh. And for the border there, I'm just gonna connect that to get a little bit of a edge loop. So now that I've done that, I'm going to hide. First, I'm gonna disable the live mesh, and I'm gonna hide it. So that's the mesh that I just created. And now I want to create some thickness. So to do the thickness, I'm simply gonna select my object, select my mesh, and I'm gonna go with the extrude option. So I'm gonna click on extrude, and first I'm gonna select my mesh, then I'm gonna click on extrude. Now I try thickness, but thickness start creating some weird geometry inside. So instead of thickness, I'm gonna use local translate Z. This seems to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit better. So something like that might be okay. As you can see, the normals are flipped because I have extruded inside. So that's an easy fix. I'm just gonna go and click on flip normals, so like that, and everything is fine again. And then same as I was doing with in ZBrush, I'm just gonna add a loop, a couple of loops there, and I'm gonna pinch it towards the outside, so to create an edge loop there. And I'm gonna do the same along here and here as well on the neck. This will allow me to get a little bit sharper edge when I smooth this mesh. So actually for this one I put only one in the middle because I want it to be less sharp, and one last here just to get this border a bit sharper as well. Again, I'm gonna insert a couple of loops and use the pinch towards the outside to make them where I want. And I need to press enter to confirm that. So next we are gonna move to the part that goes on the arm, on the forearm. So same as before, make it live. I'm gonna hide that, I don't need it. I'm gonna make it live, and this is a very simple object, shouldn't take very long at all. Same as before, quad draw. I'm trying to keep both sides with the same amount of polygons, and I'm just gonna extrude up this part. Very simple, very straightforward. This really is a super simple mesh to retopologize. And once I do that, again, I add a little bit of loop there, and the same as before. Once that's done, I'm just gonna disable again the live mesh, press 3 to get the smooth preview, and then again with my object selected, I'm just gonna add some thickness with the local translate C option. And again, I try thickness, but again, I don't know, it doesn't work very well for me. This one looks better, and again, I don't really care about being super precise, because I will have to project these mesh back in ZBrush over my high poly one, so everything will go in place there. And so again, I did the loop there, and this is done. if I press 3 to activate the preview, as you can see, it's good. And lastly, it's the leg part or the boot. Same as before, live mesh. I'm just gonna adjust a little bit this part here, just to create some fairly even base, kind of a cylinder, and add some edge loop. So again, same as before, just add all the connection and then go and add the cuts there. And here I'm just gonna paying a little bit more attention to this boot shape here. I kind of want to create in my retopology, I want to keep this shape because this will help me a little bit better to have that crease on the edge of the boot. So and then just going down and do the rest. So just extruding there, bring those down, and then align them at the bottom and add the cuts like so. And for the feet as well, the part of the feet, it's again very simple. Just add as few polygons as possible to follow the shape, and this shouldn't take much at all. The back of the boot, and now the sole. For the sole, I'm just again, I don't need to be very concerned about the shape there, but just to add a little bit of edge loop when I need there on the part where the shoe is attached to the sole, and then adding a couple of subdivision there, and that's done. So same as before, I have my retopologized boot there, and I'm gonna add some thickness once more. So as you can see, thickness just for some reason just explodes. I don't know what's going on there. So just click that, and I have my thickness. For this, I think, so I'm gonna add the usual edge loop there, but I don't really want the whole geometry that goes down inside. I don't really need it. You will never see that. So I'm just gonna select a loop there and then remove the whole part inside, just to have like one small border that goes a little bit inside there, and that's it. That should be more than enough. You're never gonna see that past that point anyway. So here it is, my retopologized costume. The whole thing took about an hour, maybe a little bit more. Very, very quick and easy. And now I just export my new meshes, and I need to export them back to ZBrush to project them over my high poly mesh. So let's go back to ZBrush. So here I am, and so I'm gonna hide everything except my low poly and high poly mesh, and I'm gonna go to solo mode, and so subdivide this object, and I'm just gonna project all to get some projection. Now as you can see, I'm having some projection problems there, so I'm just gonna smooth them out, and I'm just gonna clean the edges. I'm just gonna smooth it out and reproject the parts that I need. No need to reproject the entire object. When you have this kind of projection error, what I usually do is after I smooth it out, I just mask the part that I need. But in this case, I just as you can see, I'm still having some projection problems there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move those parts to go inside to fit a little bit better, and then I'm gonna inflate my my mesh, and so just keep smoothing and reproject the parts where the mesh is not aligning correctly. Like here, the projection is making this part going inside on itself a little bit, so it's not a big deal, it's easy fix. You just move it in place and reproject the part that you need. Also, one thing to notice is that you want to be careful of having the loop that you made it projecting correctly. You don't really want the mesh to like fold on itself. You want to keep the loop clean. So again, here I have few projection errors, but just moving the geometry in place should be fine. You have to do these parts are a little bit tricky, but if you keep smoothing out and reproject, smoothing out and reproject, eventually you will get it right. So again, now it's projected correctly except this part here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna move them manually, mask only that part and project there, so I don't need to reproject the rest because it's already clean. And this one looks pretty good. I'm just subdividing one more and project it so I get all the details back. So one last projection there to get all the details. So as you can see, I have my low poly mesh with nice and clean, and it has all the details of the high poly version. And now I'm gonna go with the dem standard brush, and I'm gonna add lazy mouse, and basically I'm just gonna reinforce these lines here that they became a little bit weaker when I combined the object into a Dynamesh earlier. I kind of lost a little bit of depth in these lines, so I'm just gonna trace them back to get them stand out a little bit more. The good things about ZBrush 4R8 is that the lazy mouse now can be stopped and continued exactly from the same point without creating visible pinches or visible interruption in the lines, which is great. It's a great feature. And so you can do a little bit of a stroke and then stop and continue, and then stop and continue, and you will have one nice continuous line without having to worry too much where it was stopped and resumed. So like that, and one last here, and we are ready to go. There you go. Okay, and this one on top. So this will take care of the lines. Looks pretty good. So move on to the next one. I'm just gonna check real quick. I'm gonna do a pass of clay polish just to get those lines a little bit sharper, and that's it. You can see that the topology is there, and the details are there, so everything looks fine. Looks pretty good. So next we are going to do the boot, and same as before, I'm gonna subdivide and start projecting over, and maybe inflate a little bit, so just to encapsulate the whole mesh when I reproject. I'm just gonna have to adjust the top there. As you can see, it's going a little bit inside, so I need to manually extend it before projecting it, and as well as the edge of the boot need to be pulled down a little bit to match my topology. I want that edge loop that I made to match with the underlying geometry, so once I project, I want to have it in place. So I'm just gonna pull this down, this edge loop down, project, pull it down and project, so I can get I can follow the shape of that edge with my topology. Again, pull that down, smooth, and reproject. So I'm just basically trying to align my edge loop to the underlined edge of the boot. So something like that. Looks pretty good. I have a little bit of a mess there, so I'm just gonna have to clean that up and again inflate and move in place and reproject. That should take care of it. And for the sole, it looks pretty good. I'm just gonna adjust a few points there with the heel part is nothing too fancy, just a little bit of adjustment with the edge loop is. Smooth it out and reproject again, just to get just to align my retopology loop with the underlying geometry. So something like that. Don't need to be crazy about that part. Smooth it out a little bit, and that's it. That's what it takes, really. It's not. So for the top, I'm just gonna adjust the loop a little bit better there. And so one last projection, and should be pretty good. I'm projecting on, keep subdividing and reprojecting, so I get all the details in there. Looks pretty good. And now, as I did before with the DEM standard, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna refine these lines, even though these lines actually are gonna be covered by another piece that it's on the leg, but just gonna go through real quick and give it a little bit better edge, and like so. And I'm gonna do the top ring there of the thighs, and then down to the boot shape. So again, just moving around like that, just to reinforce a little bit that sharp edge, and do the same with the bottom one. It's important to use lazy mouse to get like a nice and clean line, and then basically move down to the bottom part like that and refine those edges as well, like that. The heel, and like so, and the parts there of the over the foot. I'm gonna have to add details obviously to this mesh after I post it, but for now that's enough. Again, one pass of clay polish, and looks pretty good. So move to the next one. Looks pretty good, yeah. So next object is gonna be the I would call it the glove, but it's not really a glove. It's more of a, it's just the part that goes on top of the forearm. I don't really know. It's a fingerless glove. I don't really know how to call that part. So I'm going to append my last object. There, it's there. And pretty straightforward again with this one. Just same as the other objects. Just project, move in place, and then do the projection like that. One thing to notice is that in my retopology, this mesh have a thickness that goes completely inside from the top to the bottom, while in the high poly mesh it stops sometimes in the middle. That's not a big deal. So when I project inside the part inside that is not correct, I'm just gonna manually fix it like that. You can see this part here is not correct, but I just smooth it out. And again, same as before with the I'm just gonna clean this up inside, and then at the end with the actually I'm using the morph target here, so I store a morph target, reproject it, and then using the morph target on the inside to clean up that part without having to worry about the outside. So what I'm doing here with the morph brush, I'm just restoring the inside, so the outside part is still projected, well, except here. I'm gonna have to reproject real quick, and yeah, that's pretty much done. So once again, with the dam standard brush, I'm just gonna refine this edge here real quick. Here you go, and we are ready. So one last clay polish there, and there it is. So all my parts have been as you can see, all my parts have been reprojected now, so I have a nice low poly version for everything. So let's check everything back, and I'm just gonna activate all the parts that I want to keep, all the parts that has a low poly mesh ready. So that part, the zippers, that part there, and those parts of the legs, the mouth, and the body, of course. So if I go and click on all low, everything should be low poly. I think I forgot something there. I need to hide the high poly of that forearm there, which is, can't find it. It's somewhere. For some reason I cannot see it, but should be in there. Oh, there it is. All right. So everything has a low poly version now, which is great. So the last thing I need to do in this part here is to mirror the boot, and mirror the part of the that goes on the arm. I'm just gonna delete the lowest subdivision for the boot. I think it's a little bit too low poly. This one is better, and I'm gonna do the same for the forearm. Just delete the lowest and keep the one above as lowest. So once that's done, I just need to mirror them. So I'm just gonna go into Z plugin, and first I'm gonna save it just in case. Alright, save, done. So okay, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm going to clone this object. The reason why I've deleted I went to the highest subdivision mesh and I deleted the lowest subdivision mesh. The reason is because I want to merge these two objects together, merge the two boots together, and then I will reconstruct the subdivision. Sometimes ZBrush, if you leave the subdivision when you mirror an object and you combine it, sometimes the highest subdivision gets lost for some reason. I haven't figured out why, so I prefer to do this way. I keep the highest subdivision, delete the lowest subdivision, duplicate, mirror the object, and then merge them together, and then I have and reconstruct the subdivision so I can have the full range that I had before. So as you can see, reconstruct subdiv until I get to the subdivision level that I want. So yeah, there you have it. This is the completely retopologized costume. So in the next video I can finally go and pose this character, and once the character is posed, I just gonna have to clean up the pose and add all the details. Actually, I just noticed that I have a useless object there. I don't need that anymore. That was used before, so I can delete that one. So yeah, I will show you in the next video. I will show you how do I pose the object in Maya, and then I can finally start sculpting some detail to the costume. So now I'm just deleting the lowest subdivision for this, for the costume there as well, just to keep that a little bit more detail. But yeah, so let's save it one more time. Alright, so this is done, and yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Just gonna remove the objects that it's not they are not visible, so to clean up the scene, all my Dynamesh old meshes there, and save this into a new scene so it's nice and clean. And now if I scroll down and click on all high, this will switch all the subtool to the highest subdivision mesh, and there you have it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the next video when I will post the character, and thank you for watching. Thank you for watching the full video. If you want, you can support me on Patreon, subscribe to my channel, and make sure to watch my latest video and other videos in my playlist. See you the next time.